Welcome back to the Unwind podcast. I'm your host, Lucas. I run a couple of agencies, one being a creative agency and another being a TikTok first agency. I also recently started an e-com brand, so very much still on my journey to finding success as an entrepreneur. Now, this podcast is all about meeting with like-minded entrepreneurs and professionals to go deep, have a little bit of fun as well over a drink or two out of office hours. Most business podcasts struggle to do that and are a bit formal and professional and interview-like, and we definitely want to break that and go deeper, have a bit of fun, as well as offer tons of value. So you can find us on Spotify or YouTube at Unwind Podcast. Now let's get into the pod. Welcome back to another episode of Unwind with me, Lucas. Today I'm met by Dave Belle, who is Growth Director at TradingView and also founder at Macrodesiac. So Dave, thank you for joining us today.
No worries, Keys. Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. So, we'll get into your story in a bit. Just to say as well, one very quickly, we've now got our Unwind merch coming through. So, the drink of choice today, we've just gone for the lemonade on a nice, very hot day. So, I guess, Dave, we'll get straight into your story, really. If you just start with a bit of a synopsis of what you do now, and then we'll go back to the start and make our way forward chronologically.
Yep. So what I do now, as Lucas said, I am head of growth at TradingView, and alongside that, I do things like market data as well. So I'm speaking with the stock exchanges, the commodities exchanges, that kind of thing, and also the compliance side. So making sure everything's kind of kosher when we're onboarding certain B2B clients. But predominantly, what I've done at TradingView is that kind of B2B sales. Essentially, growth is sales. At the end of the day. And also alongside that, I run Macrodesiac, which is kind of like my own endeavor, which is macroeconomic research. So, which tends to be really, really boring and complicated, and then put down to, decent terms for the average person that they can understand. So yeah, that's kind of a little synopsis. And then alongside that, I trade and do the whole scary gambling shit. So yeah, that's it.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess let's go back to the start then. Obviously you've got a mad career at this point, very successful, but let's go back to the start. What were you like as a child? Were you entrepreneurial? What did your childhood look like?
That is a good question. I thought when I was a child, I was very academic.
Okay,
actually.
Interesting.
I was good at school. Didn't really have to study. Didn't really have to do much work outside of what I was done. I had glowing reports, that kind of thing. Was never really a little shit until maybe when I turned 16, 17. So I was actually, probably more geared towards going down that straight route of even possibly venturing into academia myself.
Interesting.
But then kind of came a sort of streak of cynicism, I guess. And I became very, very cynical, especially at university. I became cynical of theory. People just teaching theory all the time and saying that this is the way to do things, this works and that works, because actually I put a lot of it down to starting trading when I was about 18. And I did an economics degree, and I'd go to university and I'd, be seeing what the lecturers were telling me about how the economy should function, or how, this certain mechanism in the economy should work. And I'd be like, but that's not happening in real life. That's not how things are working. Do you know what I mean? And I came into my economics degree really excited to be learning about all of this stuff. And I came out of it thinking, this lot are a bunch of bozos. Like they're literally talking about things for their own circle rather than anything that could work.
It's to almost check a box.
Yeah, exactly.
Textbook.
And to sound good to their peers.
Yeah.
And honestly, some of the papers that you read in economics, and I think a lot of university.
Is that what you studied,
topics,
economics?
Yeah. They're studying stuff that is almost totally irrelevant and will never work in real life. And it's like, why are you spending all this time doing that? And I just became very cynical after that.
So what was that like uni experience like? Because for me anyway, I mean, it's difficult because I went to film school, so actually a lot of it I've been able to put into practice. But I think for me, the main reason I went to uni, because I always knew I wanted to be my own boss, but feel like the main reason I went wasn't because I wanted to learn and get a degree to get me a job. It was for the experience. What did that experience look like for you? Was it?
Yeah, it was a lot of drinking, a lot of missed lectures. But I think the missing lectures part of it is because I wasn't actually enjoying it. It wasn't it wasn't relatable enough to me as a person, nor kind of almost where I wanted my knowledge to go. I was I'm very practical. I want to see things for how they truly are, not what someone else's weird perception of it could be, because that's what theory is at the end of the day. It's still a perception. It's just it's worked most of the time over time, but in economics even theories literally do not work. But yeah, it was good. I don't think the people at university were necessarily my kind of people. It's a very liberal university, and it's not that I don't have liberal values, but it was Sussex University, and I think Brighton and Sussex is very liberal.
Yeah, 100%. That's where my sister went as well.
Yeah,
Sussex.
Yeah, and it's good uni, whatever. But I think it was venturing into that very kind of Jeremy Corbyn-esque type thing, which fine, have your views, but I can't be around that all the time.
Yeah,
I'm in finance at the end of the day. Come on, Jesus.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, so came out of uni then. What did that look like? Like, did you kind of clearly know your path? Like, did you know where you wanted to take your career?
No. So end of uni, I was really, really sick, and my granddad died, so I didn't actually finish my summer exams.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. And so they said to me, okay, well, you're probably going to fail the third year if you don't do well. You are going to fail the third year, and I was like, fine, that's absolutely fine, because I didn't want to spend another year of having to do those exams and go through it all again. So I was literally like, okay, what do I do next? So came out for about 2 months, worked some crappy sales job.
As we all do, I think.
Yeah, literally for 2 months. And I was like, no, I hate this. So I then saw that FX Street and the University of Essex had like this little, kind of like a financial trade and analysis course, like a mini diploma almost, which you do over the course of, I think it was 6 months or something like that. And it was led by a guy called Gus Farrow, who's now one of my really good friends. And that was one of the primary reasons as to why I wanted to do it, was because I saw the tutor list and I saw they're all market participants. They're all practitioners,
Such a good point, actually, I think. Because you see people going to uni and shit for business or something, and it's the people that are teaching you business have never actually run a business themselves. Exactly. So it makes no fucking sense.
Exactly. And, Gus was at the time, I think, either president or chief editor at FX Street, which is one of the publications that I was, reading a lot at the time. I was like, this quality.
Yeah.
He's from Essex as well. He's from London. So we kind of had some local affinity almost. And then from there, Gus actually got me my first job at a retail brokerage. So that's on the sell side. And my thinking there was that, okay, if you can see what retail traders are doing wrong, then you can formulate views on what to do right. I tend to find that, it's kind of that cliche that you learn from your mistakes. But in this industry, it's very, very true, because it works on, the markets work basically on who is fucked the most. Who is fucked in their position, and how can the most pain in the market occur. It's kind of what we're seeing now with, crypto and whatever, which I'm sure we'll get onto later.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I started doing like video stuff at his studio, which was in a hedge fund. Met loads of interesting people from there, and meeting those people. If you're, I can't remember how old I was, maybe 20. No, I wasn't 20 then, sorry. I was 21, 22, maybe 23. If you're meeting all these people who've been in the markets for like 20, 30 years, you're going to get some cracking, bits on how things actually work and, what to do. And, I've just tried to put myself out there as much as possible.
Talk about that then. Because I think a lot of people watching this will struggle to do that part of it. And it's obviously really important to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. You know, I've said it a few times on this podcast, like the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, whatever you want to call it, you know, meeting that one person and will lead to X and Y, etc. Talk about that then, like how you found the courage to, you know, put yourself in those situations.
So I've always considered that nervousness comes from just pure anticipation. Being nervous is just anticipation. And when you actually do the thing, you tend to find those nerves just go. So that first time,
Such a good point.
I'll tell you that first time about about doing an interview live at 7 a.m. So I was 22, I think, 22 or 23. And I'd been, you know, around the studio, Gus's studio for a little bit, just like doing the odd bits, writing scripts, that kind of thing, you know, chatting to people, doing some social media stuff for them, and drawing up charts and whatever. And Gus had asked me then to go on the next morning, but we were out that night as well. So I
Mister.
bad mistake.
We've
So
all been there.
I came in, to be fair to me, nice and early. It was with Zach Meir, a guy who's well known in finance. And I was hungover, man. And you can see it on my face. Like my hair's mashed, like just sweating. My shirt's like open to here because I'm just sweating out this hangover.
You don't realise as well when you've had a night like that how much you actually stink of booze.
Oh, mate, I must have literally smelled like a brewery. And I was talking about the student loan market in the US and how I thought that it was, you know, kaput and all of this, which I still think it is. But yeah, that first time, you know, I couldn't give you advice on that moment because my anxiety was probably amped up purely from the hangover.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the end of the day, nerves come from anticipation rather than doing. Once you're doing it, you're just in the moment and you have to do it.
Yeah,
you know?
It's a good point actually. I think it's so true. It's almost what your anxiety builds in your own head before it happens, and then once you're into it, you just kind of fucking get on with it.
And I think also, you know, there's a point when you're a newbie, you're always going to have those nerves because you're scared of making a mistake, basically.
Yeah.
But the thing that I always say to myself is, what's the worst that can happen? Am I going to die?
Yeah.
If I'm not going to die, then things tend to be all right, you know. But once you get the confidence and once you've done stuff enough, like those nerves just aren't there anymore.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. And I think, like you said as well, you know, it's being open to failure. I think you made a great point, and you using it more, I guess, in terms of, you know, the market, trading, etc. But it's a life thing, isn't it? You know, you put yourself in positions and you're open to fail because that's really how you learn. So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, so where are we next then? So that in the story, I forgot where we got up to.
So we got up to the retail brokerage and working at the studio.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. Right.
And then they shut down the UK operation of the brokerage. So I left, and immediately after that, someone approached me, actually. I think I've blocked this out of my head because of trauma or PTSD or something. And he was an older bloke, and he'd been asked by a Malaysian currency brokerage to set up an operation in the UK. Fast forward a year later, still hasn't been done, even though we've had the go ahead to do it, and we get a notification saying the money's not coming.
Shit. What were you doing in that 12 months then?
We were planning everything. We were planning, you know, how we're going to get the licenses completed, you know, the regulatory stuff done, the staff, literally everything, premises, you know, everything that would kind of go into setting up an operation of a UK financial services business, we were looking at and preparing for. You know, getting consultants on, all of this kind of stuff. And for me, it was gutting because, you know, it just felt like such a waste of time. Obviously now it doesn't feel like a waste of time because, you know, I learned so much. But at the time I was distraught. I didn't know what I was going to do next. So then, I was still trading at the time, so that's fine. But even that, I needed, a break from that too. So then I went and worked at another brokerage, which was more mid-market stuff, which was, mid-market is probably hedge funds spanning £5 million under management all the way up to £500 million. So worked there. Funny story about that brokerage as well is that it was in the news, but there was a French retail trader, so a small everyday person, who managed to build up a position of $6 billion because he didn't realize that the platform he was using wasn't a demo account, it was a real account. And basically the back end of our clearing system didn't recognize that it was a real account, so they were just allowing it to go. Yeah, man.
What happened with that then?
They're out of business now. But yeah, we made the profit, even though we probably shouldn't have. But yeah, I don't think he owed any money. I think we just made the money, and yeah. But yeah, so you can imagine what kind of firm that was. Just not very well run, But no, again, learning experience there. Met actually a guy who I'm close with and going to be doing business with this year. Really decent business with this year, we hope. How things go sometimes.
Yeah.
Met him there. I like to call him the nicest broker in London because he genuinely is. I've met some.
I was going to say, brokers. Is it a cliche then that a broker is?
Not, you know what? Not so much anymore, to be fair, because it's more these days. It's more. There's less that you can get away with, and so it's more account management, much more structured, less going out all the time for client meetings, unless it's a massive client, of course. But we still did our fair share of drinking, getting pissed, and that kind of thing. But yeah, they are very cutthroat. The whole industry is cutthroat. Less so amongst the programmy types, more amongst the sales broking, that kind of type. So, yeah, it is still a cutthroat industry at the end of the day. You have to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Any
high
industry,
pressured as well.
Yeah, any industry where you can make £1 million, then it's going to be cutthroat.
Yeah, 100%. So on that note, then it being cutthroat, high pressured. I remember asking this question. We had CFO of Tesco, or ex-CEO of Tesco, on the pod, like episode 4, I think it was. And his answer was quite interesting. But I'd be interested to hear from your perspective in a very different industry, but still very high pressured. Like you say, there's a lot you can win, there's a lot you can lose.
Yeah. And
you've got to keep a very level head. Talk about that then. Like how do you deal with that pressure?
It is very, very difficult to, and I don't even think I've mastered that myself, to be honest. Before, probably when I had less responsibilities, it mattered less. Now that I've got a fiance and I've got a child, it matters a lot more. And that's probably one of the reasons as well why I stopped drinking back in October,
we'll get
November.
Onto that actually.
Yeah. Because probably pandemic was contributing. But I think through my life, I had, if I was feeling a bit, not necessarily down, but if I was bored or did feel a bit stressed, hello mate, do you want to go to the pub? It's so easy to do.
So true.
And then it becomes a little bit of a vicious circle sometimes. So yeah, that was probably part of the reason. But I think when you're dealing with stress in that way, it does depend on the type of stress. Like financial stress is probably different to other types of stress, or relationship stress, or work-related stress. I think sometimes with work-related stress, you want to punch them in the face. With other types of stress, it's just more frustration or sadness or something like that. So I think it's more about kind of thinking actually about what you're feeling sometimes. Like, what am I feeling a specific emotion?
Yeah.
Because stress can be sad, it can be angry, it can be frustration, it can be this.
So like self-awareness is a big thing.
Yeah. And I don't do it myself all the time, but I'm trying to, because I think being a little bit smarter about your emotions is a good thing.
Yeah, I can agree more. Yeah, I mean, from my side as well, it's a good point actually about the drinking, because, I'm not a fucking heavy drinker, but I do like a drink from time to time. But I agree that for me, even running a business, you know, it's a different kind of pressure. But for me, I find if you're not in the right headspace going into a situation, it's so dependent on the way that you go into a situation as to how you deal with that.
Yeah.
It's other factors as well. For me, I can handle pressure way better if I'm in a routine. You know, little things like that seem help me a lot. And when you kind of fall out of that, you know, you almost that mental stability can alter as well.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, I've probably become more routined only because I've got a child now.
Yeah.
So like, I could probably tell you what I'm going to be doing at every 15 minutes of the day from when I woke up, purely because of the little one.
Yeah.
You know, so I do totally get that, and you know, being a parent as well, that routine is so important at this age. And I don't know what it's going to be like when she's 4 or 5. She's 2 now. She turned 2 last week, I think, week before. But I would like to keep that same kind of routine, or a loose routine, at least, because it gives you so much more structure.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, interesting. So you left that brokerage, then what happened next?
Do you know what? I missed a bit. I worked for TradingView briefly for about 9 months.
Okay.
Before then, while I was setting up that other brokerage.
Right, okay.
Or trying to anyway.
Yeah.
Before it went tits up. And that was when they were far smaller.
How old were you at this point, by the way?
25, I think.
Okay.
24 or 25.
Right.
So I'm 29 now, 29 and a half. So that was a good 5 years ago, yeah. It's a long time. And yeah, they were much, much smaller then. TradingView is now the biggest financial website in the world.
Wow.
I think it's
crazy.
like 60th largest website in the world.
Fucking hell.
But in finance, like, we're multiples above all the others in terms of monthly page views and stuff like that. And yeah, being back at TradingView is just insane. Between then, so I joined TradingView again in 2020. What year are we now? Yeah, 2020, start of 2020. But I'd set up Macrodesiac at the start of 2019 when I'd left that brokerage. So
right.
I'm literally going in like reverse chronological order here, going all over the place. So start of 2019, set up Macrodesiac, which is the platform that I was talking about for retail traders.
So let's get into that then. So why did you set Macrodesiac up, and talk a bit about what it does?
Yeah. So when I was broken, I would write a daily note just on LinkedIn, and people were like, that had been in the markets for 20, 30 years, like way older than me. They were engaging with me as if I was on their level, which is fair enough. But I've seen people also, when they're, veterans of the game, be quite patronizing and like that kind of thing. But these guys were actually asking me questions. They were DMing me and asking me things. And I was like, why are you DMing me for? And then the more that I spoke to them, the more that I realized they didn't actually know as much of this specific thing as I did. And then I realized this more and more, that the same people or similar people actually didn't have a clue.
Interesting.
And then what I realized with financial journalism as well is that there is no invitation to the everyday investor to read the likes of Bloomberg, to read the likes of Reuters. To read these, well-known publications, because they just seem too highbrow.
Yeah, I agree.
Even the FT.
They're quite alienating, aren't they?
So alienating. But when I throw a meme up there that everyone knows as the header of a piece, when I put a title with like flame emojis in, but then when I'm
more relatable.
But then I'm describing what the fragmentation of the Eurozone looks like and why it's a big tail risk, but in words as if, it's me and you chatting down the pub when I did drink.
Interesting.
After 3 pints.
Yeah.
It's a different story, and you can make it funny, and you can swear, and you can talk as if you're talking to a mate. It's basically like copywriting, but factual.
Yeah. And in a way that is really consumable for the everyday.
Yeah.
So is it a lot of your audience people that are just starting their journey in that industry, or?
Do you know what? It's a mixture, and I think we tend to cater to people who. So we do have a filter, I think, that I've noticed, and it tends to be that the kind of person that unsubscribes really quickly is the kind of person that wants signals sent to them. Oh yeah, buy euro dollar here and sell it here. That's complete bollocks. And if you fall for that in this day and age, then you're an idiot, quite frankly. But at the same time, I don't blame you, because people sell a lot of dreams.
Yeah, these 21-year-olds stood next to a Lambo.
It was ridiculous in like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, no legislation. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Just a bit of a detour, but what are your thoughts on all that, like Forex fucking guru, trading stuff? Because I mean, it must be frustrating for someone like you who, almost tarnishes and gives a bad name to the industry.
They do me a favor sometimes, because some of the stuff they do allows me to delve into, and they allow themselves to be a target, because it then allows me to delve into how their business model is actually working, why getting signals off of these people won't work. And
why is that then?
So why? So the signals part of it. If you're getting signals from someone and they've got a valid strategy, okay. If you've got a strategy, you've tested it over maybe 100 or 1,000 trades. If you're getting sent signals, and what that means is you have to, for that strategy to be valid, take every single one of those trades, whether they're winners or losers, right? Because then you'll get the full outcome of that sample size. Yeah. Whereas if you're just receiving signals and you're taking one trade here, one trade there, over the end of those 100 or 1,000 trades, you're not taking the complete strategy sample size or the complete strategy outcome. So it's basically statistics. If you're just betting on random trades that these people send you without seeing the full trade history and trade and strategy history, then you can't, it just won't work. You're gambling. Yeah. And then, the way that their business model works is they earn rebates or affiliate payments from brokers when people hit the required volume. So they say, oh yeah, free signals if you join this broker. They give you these free signals up until you've traded a certain amount. They get paid the 500 quid and then you're off.
Some of them are making so much, making so much money. I know there's more legislation around it now, isn't there?
Yeah. You can still be an affiliate and do it though. But hopefully they do get caught.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we almost had a pretty fucked situation with a Forex trader, like looking for marketing services. It got pretty sticky. But yeah, so just cowboys, some of them.
Batter him? What did you do? Batter him? Is he on the balcony now?
He's tied up round the corner.
Yeah. It's a sticky one. Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, back to Macrodesiac then.
Yeah, sorry.
Talk about, how did you start growing? So I'm guessing it's subscription model.
Yeah.
And how did, you start growing that model, growing the subscribers?
All organic.
Wow, that's amazing.
All organic. So we've got 687 subscribers, I think, to the paid. And we've got about 9,500 to the free. We monetize the free via ads. So, sponsorships. But it was purely from Twitter. And Twitter is, I think, in finance, the number one tool. Like you can spend, 24 grand on a Bloomberg terminal and all of this fancy stuff. But if you're not on Twitter
is a game changer.
Oh mate, it's the best.
Honestly,
the best social media.
I only found it like recently and grew quite quickly on it. But it's the amount of, from our side anyway, like in terms of getting clients, there's a lot of, affluent people on there, business people. Like it's crazy as a platform. I think it's better than LinkedIn.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the engagement and the organic reach it has.
Literally, it's fantastic, and it's one of those things where you can have actual conversations. I find on LinkedIn the conversations just get derailed so easily, and also people on LinkedIn are more, what's the word? Way more conservative because obviously it's company stuff.
True. Yeah.
Whereas on on Twitter, obviously, you can have an anonymous account. And there's been so many times when I've been interacting with an anonymous account for months. And then you realize that they're like an executive at a certain bank or something like this. Not so many times, but once.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's honestly a crazy, crazy tool.
So how do you use that tool then? And how did you use it to grow your subscribers?
I'm quite bolshy on Twitter. Like, if I think something's dumb, I will tell you it's dumb, and I'll go through every single reason why. I like to be quite edgy. Like, even though I've got TradingView in my bio, I don't mind swearing. They don't really mind me swearing. You know, I talk about other stuff, so crossing subjects over. Like the other day, I put up a meme. I can't remember what it was, but it was like Fredo, you know, the rapper Fredo.
Yeah.
Rapper Fredo talking, and then me when I talk about the Chinese housing market, because he was like, I'm not apologizing for what I say. It's like, it was funny.
Yeah.
So you're like, if you can have a post that brings across more than one audience, it's like you're killing two birds with one stone.
I think it's like bringing personality and merging it with value as well. Just like, don't be a fucking cold, you know,
literally
just professional. It's
so boring. No one cares.
So boring.
Honestly, no one cares.
So boring.
And if you talk to most corporates, like the reasons why they want people to be all professional and clean like that and all that, it's because they're worried clients will care.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you ask the clients if they care, they probably don't either. So
exactly. Well, the clients, the lifetime value of clients for us is, you know, we get long-term client value when I actually build a fucking relationship with them. I'm not just it's not some stiff business relationship. We're actually build a friendship off the back of it. I think it's true. Like, people forget, you know, can be professional, you can be this, but everyone's fucking human at the end of the day.
Exactly. That's it. And that's what sales is, you know. People think that they're selling to a business or whatever. You're selling to a single person or multiple people. There's probably multiple stakeholders.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're trying to build an emotional connection, whether it's via email, whether it's via whatever, ideally in person. But, you know, sometimes selling can't be done. But, you know, showing your personality is the best way to feel authentic. Well, to be authentic at the end of the day. And, you know, people like that.
Yeah. So with Macrodesiac then, was it people started wanting to buy into you, or was it more the brand, would you say? Like, was it your personality on Twitter, or, you know, that they really liked and then that was the buy-in, or, you know, like, it's either brands are set up in a certain way. It's either they're set up as a brand, which, you know, that's kind of how the brand stands as its own entity, or almost a personal brand who you're buying into them.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how I started it, and then maybe you can make your mind up there. So I started it with a subscription to, I think the product was called like Campaign Z, and it was literally something to create a what's it called? A lead, not a lead. What's it called? You must know. You run a social media company. No, you know when you go a landing page. That's the one.
When you create a landing page or a lead, I don't fucking know what you're on about.
And it was literally like a logo, and then just name, email address, and that connects into MailChimp. Those lights gone again.
Yeah,
I can't see ya. That goes into MailChimp, and that was it. There was no website. It was just a link on Twitter that I was putting around saying, look, if you want to know my thoughts, then here you go, under some of the posts that I did. So I'd do like a thread or something like that, and then I'd say, here, if you want to read my daily newsletter or whatever, then subscribe here. And that's how it started, you know. And initially I built up 2 relationships with people who ran some crypto groups. And because the guys in crypto, they tend to be quite young, they tend to be looking at charts and doing technical analysis, which is like looking at patterns on a chart, rather than looking at the kind of more macroeconomic side. That was of interest to some of them. And I recognized that, you know. I said to them, look, some of your guys might want to know this. You know, they might want to understand interest rates or bonds, or, you know, how certain factors of the wider economy and wider financial markets might influence Bitcoin, for example.
Interesting.
So yeah, it was very much more people buying into myself.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So do you cross over into crypto at all, or is it?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Because it's a valid asset class.
of
you
course,
know? It's a very valid asset class. I've got my thoughts about it. They are that it is just another thing to trade. I don't care if it becomes real money, legal tender or not. I just look at it as, it goes up a shitload sometimes, and then it comes down a shitload sometimes.
Yeah, makes sense. So do you do much trading in crypto, or is it more just investments?
Yeah, I mean, I take payments in crypto every now and then, but I stopped I can't remember when I stopped. I stopped last year sometime because I felt that something was turning. I didn't want to hold a bag of crypto and it just drops.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll have a little punt, but the volatility for me is just far too broad.
That's crazy.
Because I have a relatively long-term time frame. That Bitcoin's dropped like, I think about 10 grand in the last week.
Yeah, portfolio's looking kind of fucked right now.
It's mashed, honestly. I've never seen anything like it. But it's because interest rates last week started pricing in bigger hikes. And I said on Saturday on Twitter, I said Friday, sorry. I said you can expect a Sunday dump because the futures contract called Euro dollars had fallen. That meant interest rates were going to be priced up even more.
We just started working with a new DAO, and they basically were going to launch. They had this big launch strategy campaign. We'd done all of their brand development, brand identity, social content strategy, etc. Started posting and growing their socials and Twitters and shit, and then they were like, just the market right now, it's just not a time to launch. So they just put everything on pause.
Yeah,
they'd put all this money into it, and a big part of it is just can't get the investment.
Yeah, there's no liquidity in the market left.
Yeah,
it's all gone.
People I learned the hard way. Again, I've become more. I've become safer in my investments, just like equity funds and S&P 500.
Boring bastard.
I know, very boring.
No,
I haven't. You know what? I haven't got fucking time.
No, mate. That's absolutely the right way to do it, though.
Yeah.
I actually say to people, do not get into trading.
Yeah.
Like, do not start.
I tried it and I've fucking.
Don't start. There's no point. There's very, very little upside unless you've worked on a desk and unless you've been able to be around certain people. I literally say, don't get into it because you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to have sufficient capital initially to make the money you want, and what that will lead to is just massive errors in risk management. Yeah, like there's just no point. Like you need 100. To be fair, you need 100 grand to start it. To be honest with you, if you want to make enough money to feel like you're doing something worthwhile while having good risk management, you need 100 grand.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I mean, from my side, I'm in crypto. I've got a fair amount, nothing great, definitely not. It was a good amount at one point, especially when the likes of Matic, which I was quite heavily in, was doing really well. But obviously not so much now. But I've tried it all, and for me, with the amount of time I've got, I'd rather a safer long-term play like compound interest, with putting a fucking fixed amount into equity funds every month.
You do absolutely right. I mean, if what we're really focusing on is all that matters in the market is what the rate of interest is, right?
Yeah.
If the interest rate's coming down, then equities are going higher. And from my perspective, you want to be in the most developed, wealthiest, and most forward-thinking country in the world, which is the US. You may love it or hate it. It's just the truth. And funds like SPY, which I'm sure you're in, Triple Q, which is NASDAQ. What else? You can have VOO as well, which is the Vanguard index for the S&P 500.
Yeah, I'm in the Vanguard one.
Yeah.
So on that then, would you, for someone that's watching this, I know we're jumping around a bit, but I think it's really valuable. if they've say got a small amount that they want to start compounding into a fund, would you think the better move for them is going into say a US based fund or spreading their risks across different markets?
If you're looking at say a 30-year time horizon, just literally shove it into SPY. Like there's no other thing that you'd need to do.
Yeah.
And just add a little bit each month. You know, enough to buy one share. So I think it's priced at like $360 at the moment.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, honestly do that each month and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
And that's not financial advice.
Yeah, that's what we got to say. That's a good point. But yeah, just coming back to the crypto thing, like, yeah, because I was like anyone, got caught in the wave in 2017, I think it was 2016, where we had that first run where I think it got to like $9,000 Bitcoin, and I think I bought in at like, and then it went to 12. I think I bought in at like 9, went to 12, and then it just dumped.
Yeah.
And at that point, I remember getting into all these altcoins as well, and I remember then not really understanding how the markets work with bear and bull runs, etc., and just fucking sold it. The market crashed, sold everything, and there was this one altcoin, I can't remember the name of it, but I accidentally kept like a small amount of that coin, and I think at the time when I bought it, it was worth like 3p or something like that, and didn't realize then. I went back and looked in my Binance account in like I think it must have been when we're middle of last year, when we're like in the midst of that bull run, and I accidentally left a little bit in there, and that 3p had gone up to like £4.50 per coin. And I worked out what if I didn't sell that coin, what they would have been worth, and every single one of the coins, because I looked at the history of what was there in 2017. If I hadn't sold, all these altcoins came back in the bull run. And
you must have been gutted.
Mate, I actually worked out every single one of these coins that I sold, because obviously they all crashed. But then every single one of them came back 10 times, like 10x weight, you know, more than they were previously. So it was, but that for me, that's why now I'm so disconnected emotionally that I don't give I'm not even looking.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like just don't fucking even get in it if you can't emotionally detach to an extent.
That's exactly it. I mean, sometimes, you know, the thing is, though, is that sometimes your emotions in trading can actually be a massive benefit.
Yeah.
Like, I have this meme kind of thing that I've created about myself. It's proper fucking sad to say that.
You didn't make it.
Yeah, I just made it. Where I just say, when I've really got like high conviction in something, I'll say, yeah, I feel it in my plums, like, but on Twitter, and people recognize that. And it's come off every single time. Because there is genuinely this feeling that I get, not necessarily in my plums, but you see, if you've ever played cricket or you've played baseball, you know, something where a ball's moving quick.
Yeah.
You see the ball literally like a beach ball and in like slow motion, and you can hit the ball and it just literally is perfect.
Yeah.
You know, or in golf, sometimes you might, don't know if anyone plays golf watching this, but you know, you'll hit the ball and it's timed so perfectly you can just hear it go. It's the same in trading. You just get this feeling of total clarity where it just comes off. Like anything you do in that period comes off, and trying to replicate that is almost impossible. It's almost like a limitless feeling, you know, the limitless.
Yeah.
And trying to replicate that is so difficult. So I try and journal why the market is giving me that feeling.
Interesting. Sometimes. That's cool.
And write it down.
So you journal your trades then? Because my mate's a day trader and he does that. He journals every day. It's like how that day's gone. He's almost assesses it.
Only when I get that feeling.
Right. Interesting.
Because I don't care all the other times. Because that is my period where I have high, you know, hit rate basically.
Yeah.
When it's, you know, the other times and I'm just kind of looking at things from a longer term perspective, it's not the same.
Yeah.
But every so often, like even I think it was today. Yeah, it was today. Like I sold the euro at 104.8, and then about 20 minutes later, it was at 104.30. It was 50 ticks in 20 minutes. It's just insane.
Fucking hell.
And it was just like, oh yeah, I'm selling here because it just made sense to.
Yeah.
There was no other reason. you know. So it's almost like your subconscious just has shit in there. Brain's weird.
Like
man.
how you can't teach that, can you?
No,
Really?
no, that's another thing I say is that, you know, it comes with experience as well. Like hours of pain and
Yeah.
and
I mean,
know.
I've seen it firsthand. Like, a good friend of mine, like one of my best mates, he's actually he's a web developer for us, but he trades on the S&P. So from like 1 p.m. I think to like 4 5 p.m. he's trading, and then outside of that time he web develops for us and our clients. But he's been doing that now for probably like 2.5 years and been fucking patient with it and starting to finally, you know, do well with it. But it's taken a long time and a lot of fucking dedication, almost like full time, to get to this point. And I know one thing that he said to me recently was like, he's now really consistent, which is, you know, he's in the green almost every day. But what he's now struggling with is taking more risk and going to that next step. What advice do you have there?
The thing is with me is that I don't day trade. Day trading is a completely different beast in terms of risk to what I do. Like, I wouldn't be able to. I completely agree. Like with him in terms of day trading, especially on the ES, or the S&P, which is the most competitive market in the world. I couldn't tell you how to add more risk on that market because even I trade the MES a lot recently because you can have basically smaller position sizes per tick that it goes up. And even that is just crazy because the market at the moment is just mental. But generally, you know, it's so difficult because risk determination is different from me to you to your mate, you know. Yeah. So he's got a different personality. So he might want to lump on a load from the outset, whereas I might want to have, you know, one small position, another one. See what I mean? Yeah. Just very, very difficult to say. But I guess, you know, once he's tried it once and then see if how it feels, write down how it feels, try it in increments. Probably the best way to go.
It's probably like you said, just continue.
Like heroin. Try it in increments.
Yeah, great advice.
Life advice. Try heroin.
No, it's true. It's just like you say. It's just continuing to just try and be open to failure, I guess. But I couldn't do it personally.
Nah, don't fucking bother.
So with Macrodesiac, then you kind of got to the point. Yeah, you mentioned you built this subscriber base. What's next there then? You know, what's the plan for that business? Yeah,
so we're hoping. I mean, we've been hoping for about a year now. I think we started talking about this.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I think the pandemic's messed things up, but there should be a significant investment coming on over the next couple of months. I actually spoke with him today briefly. Which, you know, the reason why we want to do it is we've seen the landscape for financial media. I don't know if anyone knows Finimize. They basically do, you know, nice and cushy news stories. You know, they've got like an events thing alongside the subscription and stuff like that. They were taken over by, I think it was Aberdeen Asset Management.
Okay.
And the thing that we're seeing now is that young people don't have an affinity to these traditional asset managers or traditional publishers. They have an affinity to creators. And so if you really want to cash out now, you're going to look at, you know, who is in desperate need of attracting a new audience. And then you cater to the avenues, you know, basically to get an acquisition from said firms, because they're going to pay over the odds to attain your audience, whether that's in 3 years, 5 years, whatever. If your ethos remains the same and the voice remains the same, you're still going to keep attracting that younger audience, which they can't do.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you, we go again.
Hey.
So I'll sort that out in a minute. Could you see yourself going for an exit then?
I think as a founder, you've always got to have the exit in mind. No matter what stage you're at, you've got to be thinking, at what point am I going to shut the doors on this for myself?
Yeah.
You know, whether that is, you know, you sell up and you stay on as CEO or whatever position, or whether you just see it as an income business, or whether you want to sell it for a couple of multiples once you've had, you know, a platform built out and you can call it a tech firm.
Yeah.
You know, I think always you've got to have the exit in mind, because otherwise you're just kind of aimlessly working towards, not aimlessly, that's probably the wrong word to use, but you've got to have a stop point.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Because sorry to interrupt you, but because I think that businesses change, and as a founder, you know, you might not be right for the business at a certain point. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously you have to get to a certain size before you probably concern yourself about that, once you've got a board and whatever. But I think that is definitely something to have in mind as a founder.
Yeah, it's always the thing that every founder, every entrepreneur has the dream, don't they, of getting that big exit, that big check. Although I've heard it's sometimes more anticlimactic than people.
Yeah, because it's like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like if it's fucking, like, it's so like in my fucking veins that just I love this, like just building shit, that I just can't see myself if and hopefully when that big exit, whether it be this business, my other business, or business in the future comes, can't see myself just having that thing where you just sit on a beach and just...
Nah, I couldn't do that. Like, I get antsy when I'm sitting on a beach anyway. You know what I mean? And I'm just on holiday for a couple of days. So I'm like, oh, come on, what do I do?
Yeah.
But I think for me, like, what I really want to look at doing... Oh, God.
No, it's all good.
Scares the shit out of me when I touch anything electronic. What I really want to do is, because I see the UK actually as being a fantastic tech hub in the future.
Interesting.
And so, you know, being an angel investor would be fantastic. You know, if you do manage to get some nice cash out from, you know, selling the business, whatever, being able to, you know, seed fund small businesses to 10, 20 grand more, obviously, in certain spaces. It would just be enjoyable, as long as you've got the risk parameters to do that and sufficient capital. But
yeah, I know someone who is just a board member now, just sits on boards, has pretty much retired, but, you know, is a board member, and some of the money in that,
you're like just a non-exec.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's
like, you know,
ridiculous.
realistically, the time you put into that is, I think you have a board meeting once a month. There's a bit of prep you have to probably do before. So let's say 2 days a month. We're talking like multi 6-figure salaries.
It's insane.
Yeah,
like, for what?
It's crazy. And that would be a fucking beautiful middle ground, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Either like you say, angel investing, or being able to sit on boards.
Yeah.
And, you know, because like at that stage, you know, they're not paying for the time, they're paying for the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably something to that, you know, what you said there is very important, is that at a certain stage you realize that, yeah, there's the experience, but also the responsibility that you take on when you do get to those kind of roles. Like me, I do compliance now for TradingView, massive firm.
Yeah.
You know, so I've got a responsibility now to make sure that, you know, the firms that we onboard are completely compliant with regulations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that can only really come with, you know, valid experience. But at that age, yeah, you know, it's not just paying for, you know, you're not paying 200, 300 grand or whatever for just someone to sit on the board. As you say, it's the responsibility of being a non-exec, and also, you know, that
the years
that experience.
Yeah, exactly. So then, yeah, you just segued quite nicely on there to TradingView. Talk a bit about your position there then, like how, obviously, how you have, and also like how you fucking juggling the two, because it's a two big responsibility roles. So yeah,
TradingView's you know, a really, really interesting one, because the way that I see it is that I work there. So how could this company be that good with me there? But no.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, no, literally sometimes it is, because we've got a monopoly on the market. You know, if someone comes to us and, how do I put it? Or if I go to a prospect and say to them, do you know who TradingView is? They're like, yeah, how do I get involved? Like, it's that kind of sell. It's like if someone puts in an application, unless something is drastically wrong with their systems or whatever, they will be able to be onboarded and the sale will be done.
Mm.
You know, there's no, they just want to be on TradingView. It's the same with anyone in finance. If you mention TradingView to them, you're like, yeah, I know TradingView.
Mm.
Whereas with some of these other things in finance, they'd be like, no, don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it is ridiculous. At one point we had 250 million hits in 1 month.
It's crazy.
You know, 60th largest website in the world. Not even just in finance, in the world. Like, that doesn't make sense in my head because I'm sitting there.
That is crazy.
You know, I'm sitting there talking shite on Twitter. And do you know what I mean?
Well, it seems like they seem, because some companies wouldn't, like you say, wouldn't like that, or again, doing you know, your other business.
Yeah.
Was that all okay? Like they're
all okay. I okayed that with them from
Yeah.
the start, you know. Once or twice they've said, oh, could you delete that?
Right. Yeah.
Which is fine. I expect that. But also I think it's because they know it's finance.
Yeah.
You know, this is how people talk in finance. I'm not saying I'm crude or anything like that,
Mm.
but people in finance like to have a laugh, you know, the odd shit, fuck, whatever, sometimes cunt, a lot cunt, actually. But, you know, it's you know, it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
And
Gives you mad credibility as well.
oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, there's the amount of blue ticks that follow me is just insane. Like other journalists,
Yeah.
You know, the other day, what's his face? Jesse Metcalf.
Oh yeah.
From John Tucker Must Die. He followed me.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Why are you following me?
That's
For,
so
you creep?
That's so random. Love it. Starting his trading journey, obviously.
Well, yeah, clearly, yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we're coming up towards the end now. But a few like quick bursts of value that I think you could potentially offer. I'd love to just get your opinion on a few things. I guess like one thing being that a lot of people watching this could get value from just hearing your opinion. You're obviously deep in the markets. What are your thoughts on, you know, this upcoming recession that we're about to go into and how you're going to navigate it?
I do think it's going to be quite a hard one purely because it's a stagflationary recession. So that means that inflation's high, growth's low. And this is what the Fed, the Bank of England, the ECB are trying to combat right now. So even though growth prospects don't look too good, inflation is high and they really want to hike interest rates to get that down, which is going to affect house prices, you know, all of these other things, business margins and whatever. So it is going to be tough. And it's weird because they kind of should have seen it coming.
Yeah.
Because what they did through the pandemic was print all of this money, but it wasn't necessarily just the QE, the quantitative easing, that was the... Sorry, I keep burping after that Sprite. It wasn't just the QE, but it was because they've been doing QE since 2009. This time it was the fact that they printed it and gave it to people, which then brought it into the economy, which then led to the inflation. If it was just QE, it would mean that it was just bond yields that were suppressed. That wouldn't really matter. It would just mean that stocks go up higher. But when there's money actually entering into the economy, that creates a different beast. And the funny thing is that loads of people put money just into crypto and stocks.
Yeah.
So this is another kind of theory that people have, that they're going to hike rates so high that house prices come down, that stocks come down, that crypto really comes down to dampen the wealth effect that people tend to get from those things, from asset prices being high.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I think there's this thing, isn't there, about, you know, I forgot who said it actually, but Grant Cardone, actually, I think, who I don't actually like personally.
Yeah,
but
it's a massive wanker.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think, was it him? So it might have been him. Someone said that a recession is a point of opportunity, and like a lot of people get fucking rich in a recession.
Yeah, it is.
How can you capitalize on a recession?
Well, firstly, trying not to be unemployed is probably the number one. You know, it's
Having more cash.
Yeah, definitely being cash, but that's almost like something that you need to have prepared for over a longer period of time. You know, it's very, very difficult to say, because the problem with entering recessions is that the opaque shit comes to light. So let's say, for example, you're working for a company that you perceive to be absolutely fantastic, big corporate. Interest rates go up. You find out they got a massive debt pile of 750 million quid that they, can't service. They have to cut loads of wages. It's like things just come out of the blue. So it's one of these times where you can't necessarily prepare for it in that way. And with inflation so high, it's not like you can even just cut loads of bills because energy costs are so high, So it really, really is a difficult one. I guess what you can do is if you think stocks have gone down, say, and if we do reach like 40% is buy equities because it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Indices are always going to go up at the end of the day, because if you're basically short indices for too long, you're betting against humanity. That's what I like to think.
That's such an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, because over the long term, if you look at the S&P 500 over the last 70 years, over each 10-year period, it's just gone up basically. So
yeah,
no point being short for too long. Or in more conservative terms, no point being out of the market for too long.
Yeah, I think it's true. And to be honest, I've never, just seeing, like you said, inflation rates now, I'm such a believer of having a lot of my money in long-term investment plays.
Yeah.
Because of if your money's sitting in the bank, like I've got friends who all their money that they fucking saved is sitting in a bank account.
Well,
and
are they crackheads?
I hope not, unless
no.
But what we are almost at 8% inflation now.
I think the last reading was about 8.1, 8.2%.
It's crazy
on the headline. So that's including energy and fuel.
Yeah. So you mentioned about house prices there. I mean, I think I've taken a U-turn on the idea, but I actually I got a mortgage in principle fairly recently and was looking to buy my first property. Do you reckon that's a bad move then?
I don't necessarily think it's a bad move, because at the end of the day, a house has utility as well. I just think if you're looking at it purely from a price perspective, you might just want to wait. But at the end of the day,
mortgage rates going up.
Yeah, exactly. So I did say to someone just today, like maybe wait 12 months, 18 months, purely from a price perspective. But, at the end of the day, a house has utility. I've got a ton of fucking thoughts on why the housing market's broken, why that means that the economy's completely broken, that we can maybe save for another time, because that'd be really fucking interesting, actually. But I think, if you do want to save a little bit, probably wait a while. Because even last year when Rishi introduced his stamp duty cut, right? So the cut led to what did it lead to? It led to a saving of 11 grand. Then house prices increased by 15 grand. So his cut actually boosted the price of housing.
It's crazy.
So I think that all of these different policies haven't necessarily fed through yet. Or the reversion of these policies hasn't fed through yet. And so over the next 6 months or so, we're really going to see that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's just a difficult one, isn't it, to know? There's never a fucking right time, but I'm starting to think more and more that, and again, prices are so fucking inflated right now. What you can get for your money is really demotivating.
Fuck me, like the house that I live in is probably where we rent it. But it's probably worth like a good 1.8 mil now.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking to myself, if I wanted to buy that, like what deposit would I have to put down? Like 180 grand plus.
Yeah.
10% plus.
Yeah.
Like
180, 200 grand.
But it's a lovely house, don't get me wrong, but it's not 1.8 mil. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And that's the disconnect here. Is like these properties are lovely, but our perception of how lovely they are is distorted by how fucking ridiculous the prices are.
It's crazy.
Do you know what I mean?
London especially.
Yeah,
honestly, like the places are, you can barely get in a one bed place with not even a fucking garden, 500-600 square foot for under 500 grand.
It's disgusting. that like, are people not seeing that's not completely insane?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and people are paying up for them. Bank of Mum and Dad had helped like 79% of first time buyers last year. Like it's a fucking Ponzi scheme.
It's sad, really, isn't it?
It's pathetic. I hate it. And that's why I don't mind renting. Like, everyone rails against spending money on rent or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, I want to live somewhere that I actually like. And I don't want to have to pay, as you said, 500K for a 1-bed property, a flat, where I absolutely just want to kill myself every day.
Yeah,
Do
it's
you know
so
what I mean?
true. Yeah. Yeah, it's I think we could go on all night about this topic.
No, exactly. We could, because I'm very passionate.
No, I think it's interesting. I'm quite interested by your
my land value tax views. Yeah. Right, let's do a pod on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I think there's so much shit we could go into. Just conscious of the time and wanting to round these out around an hour at a time if we can. But Dave, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
A load of stuff here. I definitely think down the line we could do another episode. Obviously, I'm doing these weekly, so we'll probably run out of guests soon enough.
It's knackering. It's knackering.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have to start reloading the same guests soon. But yeah, really appreciate you coming on, mate. What were your handles if anyone wanted to find you?
Twitter handle is @DavidBelle_. What else do I have? I think that's the main one, to be honest. Like, I'm always on there, literally batter it. So.
Nice. And then obviously Macrodesiac.
Macrodesiac.com as well. Make sure you check that out.
Nice. Sweet. Well, yeah, if you enjoyed this, please give it a like. Obviously, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, subscribe to us there. Any questions you want us to answer, put them down below. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode.
See you later, guys.
Sweet.
That was wicked.
Nice, man.
Yeah.